An old man falls on his face in the dirt of Canaan. He is 99 years old. The midday sun beats down on his back. Simon becomes Peter because he got the right answer on a theology exam. But if you look closer, if you step into the dirt, and then comes the divine surgical strike, the moment the tectonic plates shift, and I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. We have heard this verse so many times it feels like a religious plaque. We assume Jesus is just giving his closest friend a badge of honor. This is not a casual nickname. It is a heavy, prophetic burden. Simon the reed is being crushed, so that something immovable can be laid in his place. But to understand what Jesus is actually building, you have to look at the Greek word that falls from his lips in that exact moment. And you have to understand the vast geological difference between a stone you can hold in your hand and the cliff face they were standing on. Look at the original Greek. Look at the exact words. Matthew chapter 16, verse 18. Jesus makes a linguistic shift that gets completely lost in English translation. He looks at this dust-covered fisherman and says, "You are Peter." The Greek word used for his name is Petros. Petros does not mean a massive mountain. It means a stone, a pebble, a rock you can pick up and throw, a fragment you can hold in the palm of your hand, a piece of gravel you can kick down the road. And the blood and the physical exhaustion of the moments these new names are actually spoken. You start to see something the promotion reading completely misses. It is something small, something movable, something easily picked up and tossed aside. But Jesus does not stop there. He points to the confession Simon just made. He points to the massive, immovable reality of who he just claimed Jesus to be. And he says, "And on this rock I will build my church." He changes the word. He does not use Petros. He uses the Greek word Petra. Petra is not a pebble. It is bedrock. It is a massive crag. It is the solid, immovable cliff face, rising out of the dirt right behind them at Caesarea Philippi. It is a geological foundation that cannot be shaken. It is the exact same word Jesus uses in Matthew 7 to describe the wise man who built his house on the rock. The Petra. The storm comes. The wind howls. The rain lashes the roof. The flood crashes against the walls. The house stands. Because it is fused to the bedrock, that grammatical shift changes everything. Simon is the pebble. The confession is the cliff. Jesus is not building his eternal kingdom on the fragile, impulsive strength of one fisherman. He is building it on the bedrock truth of his own identity. Simon is the Petros. He is a fragment. He is jagged. He is small. But he is now attached to the Petra. A biblical name change is not a reward. It is a surgery. We live in a world obsessed with self-made identity. The new name is not a promotion to human greatness. It is a reminder of absolute dependence. This is why, when Peter fails, the name does not revert. When he denies Jesus 3 times in the dark, when the rooster crows and the cold night air fills his lungs and his courage completely shatters, his name does not change back to Simon. He remains Peter. He remains the stone. A broken stone is still a stone, and a stone resting on bedrock cannot be washed away. We assume names change when people graduate to a higher spiritual level. We assume Abraham and Jacob and Peter earned their new identities through a divine rite of passage. But there is one name change everyone talks about that never actually happened. It is a shift in identity so famous. It is preached in almost every church. A persecutor struck blind on a desert road. A radical conversion. A brand new Christian name to replace his violent past. Except God never changed it. The sun beats down on the dirt road to Damascus. The air is thick with white dust. A Pharisee travels with sealed leather pouches, strapped to his belt warrants for execution, signed by the high priest. He breathes out threats. He is a hunter. Suddenly, a light brighter. We curate our profiles. We spend decades trying to build a name for ourselves. We view a name as a personal possession. Then the midday sun crashes into the road. He falls to the dirt. The gravel tears his hands. A voice echoes in the ringing silence, speaking to him in the Hebrew dialect. "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" We all know the sermon. The violent persecutor meets the resurrected Christ. He is struck blind. He repents in the dark. And to signify this total transformation, God changes his name from Saul to Paul. The old sinner is gone, the new apostle is born. Except that never happened. Look closely at the chronological timeline of the book of Acts. Jesus does not call him Paul. When the disciple Ananias is sent to heal his eyes in a dark room in Damascus, he lays his hands on him and says, "Brother Saul." Years later, when the Holy Spirit speaks to the church leaders at Antioch to launch the very first missionary journey, the Spirit says, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul." It is not until Acts chapter 13, verse 9 years after his conversion, in the middle of a conflict with a sorcerer on the island of Cyprus, that the text casually drops a detail. But Saul, who was also called Paul, filled with the Holy Spirit, looked intently at him. He was always Paul. Born in the cosmopolitan city of Tarsus, he carried dual citizenship. He was a Hebrew of Hebrews from the tribe of Benjamin, proudly bearing the name of Israel's first king, Shaul, meaning asked for. But in the ancient Near East, a name was not a handle you put on a document. A name was a character. A name was a prophecy. But he was also a freeborn Roman citizen, and his Roman cognomen was Paulus, a Latin word meaning small or humble. For his entire early life, he walked in the arrogant authority of his Hebrew name: Saul the scholar, Saul the Pharisee, Saul the righteous hunter. But when he steps onto Roman soil in Acts 13, facing a Roman proconsul to preach a Jewish Messiah to the Gentile world, he drops the prestigious Hebrew title. He adopts the name that means small. The shift from Saul to Paul was not a divine erasure of his past. It was a strategic surrender of his privilege. God did not change his name to make him a Christian. Paul voluntarily weaponized his own dual identity to reach a Roman world that would have rejected a Hebrew scholar. He made himself small so the message could be massive. The men we have looked at so far, Abraham, Israel, Peter, received their new names in the middle of the dirt and chaos of their earthly lives. The name was a surgical tool for the immediate journey, but there is one more name change coming, and this one is not found in Genesis, and it is not spoken on a rocky cliff in Israel. It is waiting at the very end of the biblical timeline, hidden in a strange, ancient promise that most modern readers read right past. It was the essence of a human being compressed into a spoken sound. To know someone's name was to understand their nature. The Aegean Sea crashes against black volcanic rock. An old man sits in exile on the prison island of Patmos. His hands are weathered. The wind off the water is bitter. He dips a split reed into ink, and he writes a letter to a church, surrounded by an empire that is trying to erase them from the earth. Revelation chapter 2, verse 17. He writes a direct promise from the glorified Christ. To the one who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give him a white stone, with a new name written on the stone that no one knows except the one who receives it. A white stone. We read that as a poetic metaphor. But in the first century Roman world, a white stone was not poetry. It was a functional object. It was a mechanism of survival. Picture an ancient Roman courtroom. When a jury voted on a capital trial, they dropped small stones into a bronze urn. A black stone meant condemnation. A white stone meant you walk free. Picture the ancient athletic games. When a runner crossed the finish line first, he was not given a gold medal. He was handed a smooth white stone. It had his name carved deep into the surface. It functioned as an exclusive admission ticket to the victor's banquet. To change their name was to claim total, absolute ownership over their future. When the creator of the universe reaches into a life, picture a Roman household. When an enslaved person was finally granted freedom after years of brutal labor, they were sometimes handed a white stone. It was a permanent token of their emancipation. Akital, victory, freedom, all carried in the cold, hard weight of a stone in your palm. But Jesus takes this cultural symbol and adds a detail that completely subverts it. He says there is a new name carved into this stone, and no one knows it except the one receiving it. Think about the contrast. Every other name change we have seen so far was meant for the public. Abram became Abraham, so the nations would recognize the covenant. Jacob became Israel, so the 12 tribes would have a national identity. Simon became Peter, so the early church would know its foundation. But this final name is entirely hidden. It is a word forged in the fire of your specific struggle. It is the word God speaks when He looks at the truest, the most complete version of who you have become in Him after the wilderness is over. This final name is not a public badge. It is an intimate secret. It is the ultimate proof that out of billions of souls, you are completely, fully known. And if you understand what that white stone represents, it completely changes how you view the name you are carrying right now and alters the syllables a person answers to. He is doing something violent. He is breaking the old vessel. This is not a title upgrade. An old man receives a breath in the desert, and a barren family line wakes up to life. A runaway wrestles a shadow in the mud, and a nation is named after his refusal to let go. A fisherman speaks a truth on a pagan cliff, and an immovable church is built upon the bedrock. A broken disciple weeps in the cold dark and remains the stone he was declared to be. A scholar drops his prestigious title on a Roman road and makes himself small to reach the world. An exile writes a letter from a volcanic prison and promises an acquittal that can never be revoked. A creator reaches into a fractured human life and speaks a word that executes the old self. Same pattern, same surgery. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the mud at the Jabbok River. God did not meet Jacob in a sterile temple or a quiet sanctuary. He stepped into the pitch black, broke his hip, and forced him to speak the name he was most ashamed of. Jacob had to confess his deception before he could receive his destiny. It is the execution of the old self to make room for what must be born. The question is, what exactly is being removed? The new name was not handed down from a distance. It was forged in the physical, agonizing contact of a fight. If you are in a season where your identity feels fractured, where the labels you carry feel like a daily mockery, or where you are wrestling in the dark with a God you cannot fully comprehend, sit by the river. Do not run. The wrestling is not a sign of your failure. It is the prerequisite for your transformation. God does not demand your flawless performance. He demands your honest confession. The breath of God is drawn to the dead spaces, and the new name is waiting on the other side of the dawn. And may the God who steps into the dirt to fight, for us who breathes His own life into our barren places, give you the endurance to hold on until the sun rises. If this opened something in you, subscribe. Leave a comment. Even one word helps. Share this with someone who is wrestling in the dark right now. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts and what is being implanted. And the answer changes how you read every calling, every struggle, and every destiny in the text. The sand is hot beneath his palms, and a voice he has followed for 24 years tells him that his entire identity is now obsolete. To feel the weight of this operation, you cannot start with the famous fisherman in the New Testament. You have to go back to the beginning, to a man whose original name was a constant, mocking echo of his deepest shame. Picture the camp at Mamre. The sun is setting. The smoke from the cooking fires is drifting across the desert, and an old man sits in the doorway of a quiet tent. He is 99 years old, and he carries a name that feels like a daily mockery. Every time a servant calls him to a meal, every time a merchant greets him at the well, they say the same word, Avram. Genesis, chapter 17, verse 5. God appears to this aging, childless man and makes an impossible promise. He says he will make him the father of a multitude of nations. And then he alters his identity. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. In English, we just see a few extra letters added to a word, but the original Hebrew reveals a profound theological operation. The original name is the Hebrew Avram. It is a compound word. Av meaning father, and Ram meaning exalted, exalted father. It is a title of dignity. But for a man with no heir, a desperate twin wrestles in the mud by the Jabbok River. It is pitch black. His thigh is dislocated from its socket. It is a title of empty prestige. God changes it to Avraham. To make this shift, God takes a single Hebrew letter and surgically inserts it into the middle of the man's name. The letter is, he pronounced, Hey. In ancient Hebrew, the letter He is unique. It does not require the tongue or the lips to pronounce. It is an aspirate. It is simply the sound of an exhale, the sound of breath. It is the same breath, the Ruach, that hovered over the dark waters in Genesis 1. But the detail that changes everything is where this letter actually comes from. If you look at the personal, covenant name of God in the Hebrew Bible, Yahweh, spelled Yod-He-Vav-He, it contains two of these breath letters. God takes a piece of his own holy name, his own breath, and grafts it directly into the center of Abram's identity. That root changes everything. When God makes a covenant, he does not just hand down a set of rules. He imparts his own life force. He places his breath into the dead spaces of a man's life so that it can produce what was previously impossible. The new name is not a grammatical tweak. It is a divine transfusion. The name change was not a reward for waiting. It was the prerequisite for the miracle. The pain is blinding, and yet he is clinging to a violent stranger he cannot see. Refusing to let go until the sun rises, God breathed his essence into the man, and a barren family line was suddenly prepared for life. The breath of God comes quietly in the heat of the day. It is a gentle insertion, but a generation later, the pattern repeats. And the next time a name is changed in this family, it does not happen with a whisper. It happens in the dark, with a dislocated joint and a desperate fight for survival. The river is loud. The night is black. A man stands alone on the muddy bank. He has sent his wives across the water. He has sent his children across the water. He has sent his flocks, his silver, his entire life's accumulation into the dark. He stands on the edge of the Jabbok River with nothing but the clothes on his back. He is terrified. Tomorrow, his brother Esau arrives with 400 armed men. The brother he cheated. The brother who swore to kill him. Jacob has spent his entire life talking his way out of corners. He manipulated his blind father. He outsmarted his uncle. He bought, traded, and schemed his way to wealth. But you cannot negotiate with 400 swords. He is out of exits. He is out of tricks. A fisherman stands on the jagged stone of Caesarea Philippi. The wind off the water is sharp. He has just answered a question no one. Suddenly, the mud shifts. A hand grabs him in the pitch black. It is not a bandit. It is not an assassin sent by his brother. It is a presence that feels like a collapsing star. They fight. They roll in the wet dirt. Lungs burn. Muscles tear. The river crashes over the rocks. Jacob does not run. He fights the shadow hour after hour. He fights for his life, for his family, for the blessing he stole but never felt he truly possessed. The sky begins to turn gray. The stranger reaches down. He strikes Jacob's hip. The joint pops. Bone grinds against bone. The pain is white hot. Jacob's leg gives out entirely. He cannot stand. He cannot fight. He can only hang on. He clings to the one who just broke him. Let me go, for the day breaks. The stranger says, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Jacob gasps, his face buried in the stranger's chest. The stranger does not immediately wave a hand. He does not instantly pronounce a benediction. He asks a question. What is your name? This is not a request for identification. It is a demand for confession. The stranger knows exactly who he is holding. Else in the crowd dared to answer. And now a carpenter from Nazareth is looking right through him, handing him the keys to an invisible kingdom. But Jacob has to say it out loud. For decades, he has pretended to be someone else. The last time a divine blessing was on the line, he stood before his blind father. wore his brother's clothes, and lied to get it. "I am Esau," he had said. Now, crippled in the mud, there is nowhere left to hide. He must speak his own name. Yaakov, the heel catcher, the supplanter, the deceiver. He breathes it out. Jacob. He confesses his true nature. And the stranger replies with a word that will define a nation for 3,000 years. The stranger does not offer forgiveness. He offers an entirely new identity. Genesis chapter 32. Verse 28. The sun is just beginning to break over the horizon, illuminating the mud and the blood on the riverbank. And the voice says, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed." The word in our English Bibles is Israel. The original Hebrew is the word Yisrael. It is a compound word forged from two distinct Hebrew roots. To understand its impact, you have to remember what this man is leaving behind. His birth name, Yaakov, meant the heel catcher. Same pattern, same disruption. Every time God is about to shift the tectonic plates of human history, he does not just change a circumstance. It was the title of a deceiver, a man who trips up his enemies from behind. But the new name is built from the verb Sarah, which means to struggle, to fight face to face, or to persevere. The second half is El, the ancient word for God. Yisrael literally translates to he who struggles with God. Think about the theological weight of that etymology. Every other ancient Near Eastern religion demanded absolute, unquestioning submission to their deities. The gods of Egypt and Babylon wanted silent slaves who built monuments and asked no questions. But the God of the Bible takes a lying, manipulative runaway, wrestles him to the point of physical dislocation, and then names his entire chosen nation after the fight. That root changes everything about how you read the rest of the Old Testament. When the prophets call out to the children of Israel, they are not invoking a lineage of perfect, obedient saints. They are calling out to the children of the wrestler, the children of the struggle. The new name is not a certificate of moral perfection. It is the divine endorsement of a man who refused to let go. If realizing that God actually honors our spiritual wrestling is stirring up questions you've never considered, you're exactly who this channel is for. He begins by altering the very word a person uses to identify themselves. Most people assume these moments are simply divine label swaps. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe. Because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So Jacob limps away from the Jabbok River. He leaves the mud behind, carrying a new name and a permanent physical weakness. The hip socket will never heal correctly. He will walk with a cane for the rest of his life. But that limp is the physical proof that he survived an encounter with the divine. The identity shifted, and the body bore the cost. The struggle in the river is an anchor point in the biblical narrative. But it is not the last time the Creator looks a flawed, desperate man in the eye and speaks a new identity over him. The pattern echoes forward through the centuries. And the next time a name is changed on this scale, it does not happen in the mud of a riverbank. It happens on the jagged bedrock of a Roman Empire. The cliffs of Caesarea Philippi cast a long shadow. The air smells of burning incense and wet stone. A wall of red rock towers above the dirt path, carved with dark caves and pagan shrines. This is the center of worship for the Greek god Pan. It is a place of blood, of sacrifice, of imperial power. The locals call the massive, gaping cave in the cliffside the gates of the underworld, a cosmic promotion, a heavenly certificate of achievement. Abram becomes Abraham because he was faithful. Jacob becomes Israel because he fought hard. And right here, in the shadow of a mountain dedicated to 100 dead gods, a carpenter stops walking. He turns to 12 dust-covered men. He asks a question. Who do people say that the Son of Man is? They give the safe answers. John the Baptist, Eliah, Jeremiah. They echo the rumors of the crowd. But Jesus is not looking for a census. He is looking for a foundation. He shifts his gaze. He looks them in the eye. But who do you say that I am? The wind stops. The 12 men go quiet. The weight of the moment hangs in the cold air. And then, a fisherman speaks. Simon, a man with rough hands and a reputation for speaking too soon, a man who acts before he thinks, who swings a sword before he understands the plan, who steps out of boats before checking the waves, a man who shifts with the tide. But in this moment, his voice is steady. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus looks at this impulsive, volatile, unpredictable fisherman. He does not simply praise the answer. He dismantles the man's identity. Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven.